I have my third icebreaker questions, and based on time, I might guide us to a few of these hard hitting questions. The third part is, what is the very first physical sign of stress you notice in yourself before your conscious brain even catches on?
Well, our body does. Like, I would say our body's smarter than our brain, to be
Mm,
quite honest. And it does
I
pick
see.
up any potential threats outside of our conscious awareness anyway. So,
Mm,
I mean, oftentimes, most of what we feel is, from our throat down to our belly button in there. So, it could be the chest tightness, it could be shallow breathing, tension. Sometimes we do feel, just tension in our shoulders and our
mhm,
jaws. There might be things that you're not even equating to stress, like headaches or stomach
mhm,
aches, GI
mm,
sort of things. Pay attention. Like, there's a lot of people who hold their breath when they're, maybe emailing, for example. So I find we're so detached from our bodies. Our body is giving us clues immediately, but we're just not listening to them, unfortunately.
mhm.
But those are usually the types of things, we'll feel our heartbeat or in our stomach or that tension in our body.
Yeah, and I think we don't have to wait to go to a yoga class or meditation. Those are great things to do. But to your point, can we just, between meetings, catch our breath and see, are we doing that long exhale? Are we taking that full breath? And taking that longer breaths feels very unnatural.
Which is a problem because that's
Mhm.
what regulates, the inhale is stimulating, it can stress us out more. It's the long exhalation. But yeah, it's the micro movements.
I have quite a few hard-hitting questions, and we could consider this as a rapid fire just to get your initial take on it. The first one, we have an engineer versus code. So someone who is a software engineer on the computer, they're coding. So when an engineer hits a wall on a complex logical problem, the instinct is to stare at the screen even harder. What is psychologically happening in their brain during that mental fog, and why trying to power through it actually is damaging our problem solving abilities?
So that's a great example of that battery, that executive functioning battery. So the problem solving, focusing,
Hmm.
prioritizing,
Hmm.
making decisions, it gets drained, just like any other
Hmm.
battery gets drained, right? So if we are running it, and again, it runs on blood glucose. And so if we're focusing for long, it's burning through that energy, and
Hmm.
it's really damaging because that neural network is already exhausted. And so if you're trying to power through, and you're trying to force yourself and stare at the screen, you're just
Hmm.
depleting that executive resource even more. And so your ability to problem solve decreases. You're more likely to make more mistakes. You're more likely to snap, get irritable, get upset.
Hmm.
And so those types of things are really important to sort of think about. We do need to go and have a rest. And there's something, to be said. I know I said sleep rhythms are 90 minutes, but a 20-minute
Hmm.
nap in the middle of, like, for me at 2 o'clock, if I could take a 20-minute nap, power nap, can make all the difference in the world. There's a 10% rule. If you can take 10% out of your day, which is about 2.4 hours, to
Hmm.
just like away from screens, just
I
to like
see.
reset yourself, that can
Uh-huh.
make all the difference in the world. And so when we're pushing through, you know, we're actually making everything worse, and same thing
Hmm.
with our emotions. If we're trying to push through our emotions, we're actually going to be more anxious, more upset. So this paradoxical sort of reaction that
It is.
happens.
We have a live question from one of the viewers who's currently watching this live on LinkedIn. The question is, how to control energy drain in the second half of the day, especially after lunch.
Yeah. Well, if there's ADHD, I mean, there's always medication. We just know that helps stimulate the brain. If you're going to look for real helpful things, it would be looking at glucose. It would be going out in nature if you can, even
Mm-hmm.
just for a few minutes, moving your body. I know it sounds
Jumping
counterintuitive.
jacks. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, jumping jacks. It sounds counterintuitive if it's like I'm exhausted. Well, energy begets energy. The more you
Mm.
move, right, and the more energy you're using that way, that will kind of help. It's got two modes. There's the default
Mm-hmm.
mode and the task positive mode where we're focusing on something, and we
Mm-hmm.
should be in both modes 50% of the time. And the
I
default
see.
mode is mind wandering, and that's where our best ideas come from, right? It's not when we're
Mm-hmm.
trying to come up with the idea at our computer. It's when we're having a shower or going for a walk.
Hmm.
Do them in the morning. Just reschedule your day. And that might be another thing that you're talking to your boss. Look, can we have our meetings in the
Yeah.
afternoon? And how can we kind of schedule around that?
Let's go to a different scenario here. Engineer versus manager. So a manager noticed a top performing developer has gone quiet in meetings and only does the bare minimum. How can leaders distinguish between someone who simply needs better motivation and someone who's exhibiting the quiet stress signals of active burnout?
It's tricky, coming from a neurodivergent place. Is it just motivation, right? If it's just the motivation piece, if we don't have the interest, if it's not challenging, it's not purposeful for us or meaningful, I mean, we're going to be quicker to burn out as well. But we can look at the periods. If there's a period of overachievement and perfectionism, I would say if I was to work on anything, it would be that. We are more likely to burn out, right? So if we see a top performer suddenly going quiet, or a loss of hope about the future, or where are they going, right? Versus it's not just avoiding this specific task, it's kind of a little bit more pervasive. I would say that's probably looking more at that exhaustion. So there's probably prolonged things that are going on. Sometimes it is misdiagnosed as laziness or a lack of motivation, but really, it's looking at that chronic sort of stress response. And it's because that nervous system is chronically overwhelmed, right? And it's adaptive way to distance itself from, whatever the stressors are. And so we just really need to look at, is there other things like emotional blunting in addition to the task avoidance? Is there withdrawal, from the social engagement as well, right? They're just trying to escape everything. They're just exhausted all the time, sort of from everything. So it's a little bit more pervasive versus this isn't challenging. I'm just not motivated enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
I need your help here, Dr. Caroline. I want to send a message to leaders that I believe in, I trust in their methods, in them, that they mean well for the people, they mean well for the company, they mean well for society as a whole. If we were going to hold them accountable to recognize, assess, diagnose, and help those top performers who are experiencing this, how would you describe their behavior? How would you describe their movements, their language? What are they saying in order to meet that bar that we're setting for what we would call an extraordinary leader?
They need to be good role models themselves, I would say, right? Okay. And being able to show their own vulnerability. I think the healthiest environments are when we can focus on, the growth mindset sort of things. And I think I hate using those words only because I think it's taken to this superficial level that's not actually very helpful, but focusing on the effort and the journey and the process. Unfortunately, we're in this outcome-driven world, right? And when we're focusing just on the outcomes, that can be really exhausting because sometimes we don't have control over, we're trying to get, this company to buy our services and we're creating all of this tech and, but then they go somewhere else. I mean, we take a personal hit. But I really do think modeling their own vulnerability and modeling their own emotion regulation and modeling healthy habits, it really comes from there. When it comes to interaction, I mean, 98% of what comes out of our mouth is not helpful. Even if we're trying to reassure a it's not our role as the leader. Our role is to give them that space. I know that there's been a lot of stress. I've noticed that there has been some withdrawal. What's up? Asking those open-ended questions. So it's creating that space. That's really what it's about, right? So it's being able to find the balance, and it's using and instead of but, right? Sometimes we're like, I get you're stressed, but we still need these things. The minute we say but, we're now invalidating and minimizing their stress. We don't feel that we've been heard, and then we have those beliefs, I can't take time off, I have to keep working, all of those things. And that's the best thing we can do, right? And kind of putting it back on their lap. Not me as the leader trying to say you need to do these things. It's oh, how can we manage these two things, right? And get that work done. That can make all the difference in the world. Just feeling supported and feeling,
Mhm.
like there is feeling heard, that's the biggest thing, right? Yeah.
100%. I feel like when we slow down, we actually move faster. And you provided the tangible steps, the recipe to enact those vocabulary. And I see it both ways. You took the persona of the leader who should be talking with that vocabulary, or it helps to talk with that vocabulary. But now, if the leader is absent, me as an employee, I have the vocabulary to invoke that now from the leader, who might not be aware, but now they have the vocabulary to be like, okay, leader, from a scale of 1 to 10, I feel stressed at an 8. What are some options, resources available for me to at least come down to a 6 or a 5, and then I have everything under control? So if the leader's not asking that, hopefully people have the vocabulary to ask for themselves.
Yeah. And there's two more things. Just you saying slow down, literally slowing down, because rushing stresses out. It depletes that executive functioning. It's just a problem when we are rushing. And so slowing down, and I mean literally slowing down. I'm not just saying slow down life. I'm like
Uh-huh.
literally slow your movements, right? Go into slow motion. That can make a difference. That can help, that's another little hack that'll help bring your nervous system sort of into safety and reserve some of those cognitive resources. I recommend everybody reading Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. It's such a great book. He was a Holocaust survivor in
Mhm.
Auschwitz. And so we can't waste our energy on those things. So again, pen to paper is the best thing. If we're in a rut, get a piece of pen, get a piece of paper, write it down. And for this, draw
Mhm.
a circle. What's out of my control? That just helps us zoom in with what's most important,
I see.
right? And then we can kind of move from there. So I thought I would just add that in too.
I love that. Take pen to paper and just draw it out. I love the circle idea where things are within your control goes in, things out of your control goes out. I think that gives the clarity, and clarity equals velocity to do those next steps and not feel stuck. I'm learning so much from you, so I'm deeply grateful for your contributions. Any closing thoughts before we end the call? What would you like the people to walk away with? How they can get in touch with you?
I am on LinkedIn, so that's a great place. I don't check, social media at all, really. Eventually I will. It might take a few months, but I will get there. I do have a website, drcarolinebazanko.com, so you can always reach me there as well. That's probably a great place. You can check me out and, some of the talks I do and things like that. I also have 2
Absolutely.
podcasts. You are on one, Overpowering Emotions, all things
Uh,
emotion regulation, big motions. And then I have a parenting podcast with my husband, which is all things parenting. If you happen to have kids, it's Parents of the Year.
Thank you so very much for your contributions, your insights, and helping us. Can't wait to have you again live here on LinkedIn.
Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. Take care, guys. Take care, everyone. Bye, doctor.
Bye.